Now, back to the family in the UK, and Princess Catherine continues her recovery. We aren't getting much detail, but people on the ground are still interested in how she's going. Now, William was asked about her health this week while he was in Cornwall. Here it is.
May I ask how Princess Kate is doing?
She's doing well, thank you.
Lovely, and the children as well.
The children are very jealous that I'm here, and they're not here as well.
Louise, thankfully the spotlight largely has come off Catherine as she recovers. But what's the latest on her recovery and return that we know? And obviously in the meantime, William and Camilla continue to carry on with all those official duties.
They are. They're sort of forging ahead, really. And as far as Catherine's health is concerned, I mean, really, it's what William says. She's doing well. They'll be very specific about the detail they release around her convalescence in order to give her that privacy that obviously she needs to get better and to get back onto the royal system, as it were, in a way. And of course, you know, William and Camilla have been out doing their royal duties, and the fact that William spent the night overnight in Cornwall, which is some 6 or 7 hours drive from London, would suggest that in fact Catherine is on the mend. The fact that he was happy to spend a night away from her and carry out his royal duties. He was down in Cornwell, he was visiting surf lifesavers, he was at the Isles of Scilly. He was playing volleyball on the beach, which was great to see. So, and of course, everyone was delighted to see him. Camilla, meantime, has been going around the country launching these coronation libraries, which is where a lot of books are donated to specific schools to encourage a love of reading amongst kids. And we know from her sort of literary sort of skills that she loves the ideas of books and book clubs, and she's got her own podcast, which is, you know, fantastically successful, unlike Meghan's, of course. So it was great to see her out there sort of spreading the power of reading and education to young children, taking the spotlight off Catherine so she can recover at home.
And Angela, it's great to see Charles back at public duties. He really seems to be enjoying himself, and he seems to be balancing things quite well.
Yeah, I tell you who won't be enjoying it is the person who keeps his diary, because what Charles is doing is he's suddenly going, I want to go to this thing. So he went to the School of Military Engineering. He gave them 8 days notice. Now, 8 days is nothing. He suddenly saw he had a gap in his diary. It was in Wiltshire, close to his home. And apparently he just sort of announced that he wanted to go along to see these people. They had to obviously get everything ready. I mean, they say, the royal family, that the smell that they know is the smell of fresh paint, because everywhere that they go, people have repainted. Well, you don't get a chance to repaint in 8 days. So I think the guy or the woman who's looking after Charles's diary will be having a hard time at the moment. He did say when he got there that he was very grateful to be let out of his cage. So, you know, it's only less than a year since the coronation. He actually wants to be king. He waited a long time for it. So he obviously wants to get back into the role that he's waited his whole life for.
And staying with you, Angela, look, we know royal warrants are big business, and the royal family has withdrawn 2 of them. Why is that?
Yeah, this is really interesting. Kimberly Clark and Samsung, this is because of their connections with the Russians. So the Ukrainians wrote to the palace and said, look, we don't want you supporting with royal warrants when companies that are, as they see it, sponsors of war. This is really interesting. A royal warrant is basically a stamp of approval from the royal family. It means the company can use the royal arms on their packaging and in their marketing. And some companies, for instance, like Cadbury, have had them since the mid-1800s. But any companies that are currently still operating, still serving Russia, will be coming under question. There's 800 of them, and the king is going through them one by one and declaring whether or not they will retain their royal warrants. So I think we'll see a lot more go by the wayside in the months to come.
He might be going through them one by one, but Louise, despite a high-profile mishap, one company has managed to retain theirs. Who was it?
That's right. So Parker Pens, you may remember a couple of years ago, at Hillsborough Castle in Belfast, the King was signing a document. It was just after 6 days of mourning, of course, after the death of his mother. And the pen leaked all over his hands, and he got very exasperated and suggested that this is the type of pen that always leaked, and he sort of walked off or stormed off, depending on how you want to see it. And then there was this great image of Camilla sort of looking at the offending pen, wondering why it was leaking everywhere. However, clearly Charles does not hold a grudge, at least when it comes to stationery, because he has renewed the Parker Pen Royal Warrant, which is fantastic because they're a brilliant English company, long-serving to the royal family. In fact, his mother used a Parker pen all the way through her reign, and I think her mother used the Parker pens as well. So if they were to lose their royal warrant just because of a mishap of spilt ink. That would be a real shame.
Good to see he's a forgiving man. Now, this week in The Telegraph, Hannah Furness details a week in the life of Princess Anne. We know Princess Anne is a very hard-working woman, and the breadth of her engagements, to be honest, is quite fascinating. Louise, still with you, it's great to see it documented in such detail, isn't it? I've got about a minute for you.
It is. I mean, we've often spoken about how much we love Princess Anne and her no-fuss, hard-working attitude. I mean, we're talking about meeting 650 people in the space of that time. So that's 650 hands she would have shaken, endless conversations, hardly any probably tea or coffee or anything like that. Anytime she had an hour and a half, another event or meeting would be sort of crowbarred into that time as well. She researches every event she goes to. All her questions are precise. Everyone is made to feel that they are the centre of her world when she meets them. But then there's no fawning. It's all very organised, and people feel that they can make an application to her office to meet her and she will oblige. So to see the hard-working detail in Hannah's story, and Hannah's been a royal correspondent for I think nearly 10 years, and even she was flabbergasted by the speed that this 73-year-old legend of the royal family can motor through the week. Incredible.
I love that. Fabulous, fabulous. Louise Roberts, Angela Mollard, thank you so much for joining us.